If you want to get good, you have to make sacrifices. If you want to become the best, you have to give everything. Counter-Strike Global Offensive, one of the most revolutionary games of our time. A game that has paved the way for all future esports to come. A game that is extremely fast-paced but painstakingly strategic, but simple enough for a 10-year-old to understand. It isn't convoluted or inaccessible. It just has a skill ceiling so high that only a handful of humans could hit it. If I want to tell you my story, first I have to tell you what Counter-Strike is. A basic explanation of the gameplay in Counter-Strike Global Offensive is kind of like a search and destroy. There are two teams. One are the attackers. They are the terrorists. They have the main objective on them, which is the bomb. They need to take that to one of the two objectives, which is A or B bomb site, and they need to plant the bomb. The counter-terrorists basically try to prevent the terrorists from doing that. The way you shoot a gun in Counter-Strike is way more intuitive than most people think. In most games nowadays, there's a term called run and gunning, which, if you're not familiar, it's where you just run around and you just hold down the trigger and just shoot. And that takes no skill whatsoever. What Counter-Strike does is each gun has its own recoil spray pattern. What they are the recoil patterns of each gun. Each gun has a specific recoil pattern that every player has to learn to be able to fire the rifle. And each player recreates the spray pattern by pulling the mouse down to counteract the recoil. Every spray pattern has to be practiced over and over and over again until you can recreate the spray using muscle memory. One of the biggest things that separates CS from the mainstream FPS games out there is not being able to move your character and fire your weapon accurately at the same time. If you want to be able to shoot accurately in Counter-Strike, you have to stop moving for a split second, fire your weapon, then start moving again. This is one of the big elements that makes CS a highly skill-intensive game. I have always had a knack for FPS games, but I never found one that satisfied me. I felt none of them really took skill to play. In May of 2019, I first tried Counter-Strike, and I fell in love immediately. Man, I fucking suck. It was the first game that ever actually challenged me. After a few months of playing Counter-Strike, I was working a full-time job at Micro Center. I wanted to see what I could achieve in Counter-Strike. I was progressing at an extremely fast pace. I spent every free second I had working at my second job, which was Counter-Strike. Eventually, I made it on a team called Silvera Esports. Our first tournament was ESEA Season 33. Nothing crazy really happened. We went 8-8 and almost made it to the playoffs. But ESEA Season 34, something awoke in me. I could not be stopped. That season, I carried my team to the open playoffs until I finished school. Who knows what the future holds for my Counter-Strike career?
Good shot, bro. He's coming to you. Short. I heard.